today we're going to disassemble the head by squeezing back the springs, taking two keepers out, and we take the springs out, and we take the valves out. So we have this special tool. Here's what it looks like. And what it does is goes here, and you push the lever, you squeeze it, it squeezes the springs. Okay, so let's just adjust this. We'll try it for one. Once we get it for one, the rest are all preset. Okay. So we have this side on the valve, this on the spring, and press in. Okay, so what happens, you take these two keepers out. Here's one, here's the other. Then slowly release the pressure. Take this out of the way. Then I take the springs off. Here comes the valve. Oh, see this little black thing? It's a little rubber seal. What it does is keeps the oil from going down alongside the valve here. See if we can get this guy off. Okay, see, just a little O-ring. There we go. And here's the valve. Okay, so, and here's where it came out of. Move these out of the way. See, the valve just goes right in here. Right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to label these because I want every one to go back in the same hole. So I'll just take a piece of masking tape for right now. Put it around here and close enough, that's one. Okay, let's try a couple more. See, there's two halves. There's the valve. Here's one keeper. Here's our little rubber seal. Take that off. And up comes the valve. Okay. I'll finish the rest of them. And here's the head with all the valves taken out except for this last one here. So that just goes up and down. This is the tool. This presses on here on the valve. So when you press down, it squeezes it, as you can see, and then you can take the keepers off. So that's it. We're all done for this side. Now what we need to do is get a wire brush all around in here, clean up all the surfaces on both sides, wash them all down, and then we'll see how bad the seats are. Okay, I just use a simple drill with a brush here that goes around. See, that pretty much cleans it all up, takes all that old stuff off. I do inside the ports also. Later on I'll come from the back side. Also, what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to do the surface. Get all that old gasket material off, everything, so they're nice and clean. See, that gets everything, the surface clean. Also goes all inside the chamber, down in the ports. So then we'll wire brush these valves off, because what we have to do is cut an edge on these valves. If I remember correctly, they're 45 degrees, and I think they're 45 degrees, so 45 and 45. So when it seats in here, it seats really solid. So that's the cleaning process. Okay, now what we're going to do is clean these valves up. We're going to take one of each. One exhaust valve because it's smaller. One intake valve. You can tell because it's larger. And we're just going to run on a grinding wheel. So I don't think you're going to hear anything, but here it goes. Oh, make sure you have a piece of plastic because these things come off, the wires come off. Wear glasses. Okay, now that came to a stop, you can see cleaned it all off on the edge here. All this is cleaned up. The back side, it goes for the exhaust valve too. It's all cleaned off on the back, all nicely done on the front. So now we'll grind these, or lap these valves in. Okay, now now that I have these all cleaned, at least these two valves, I'm going to lap these in. And that means I'm going to put this compound, lapping compound, ball amp grinding valve compound from Indianapolis, Indiana, and West Jordan, Utah. So that's basically what it is. And I'm going to take this and just put some right here on the edge. Now you can't do this on all valves. You only can do these on ones that are in really good shape. These have to be in good shape because they have the angle cut on them perfectly. So I put some of this compound on there. Then I'll just take some oil and put it on the valve itself. Now remember, this is the exhaust valve because it's a small one, and also you can tell, I can't flip it, because the exhaust valve, the exhaust is going to be coming out of here. This is the exhaust manifold. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is have to rotate this. So since I don't want to rotate it by hand, I'm going to rotate it with my little drill. So what I'm doing is taking this and putting this on my drill and rotate it in one direction and rotate it in the other one. So here I'm going to connect it to the valve itself, and now I'm going to rotate it slowly, and then I'll pull on the drill so that it puts a little pressure, and I'll let it go, and then I'll slowly increase the speed. Now I'll do the same thing and reverse the direction. Now I'll stop it. Let me take a look at it. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll put a little very fine oil in here. That way I'll lube it a little bit, put a little bit more of the grinding compound on there. See, just a little bit, not much. Okay, I'll stick it back in there. Connect up my drill. Okay, let's see what that looks like. It's a lot easier than doing it by hand. Pull that out. Clean off all the compound. And you can see that it seated it right in really nice here. Well, we'll just take off this excess compound here. Look at that, perfectly seated. This valve and seat. Okay, so that was number 5. So I'm going to mark this because I want to make sure number 5 goes to number 5 now that it's been lapped in for that valve. See, so don't forget the lap. Don't forget the label. So let's try another one. This is the intake because it's the larger of the two. Put some oil in it. There we go. Connect up my drill. Okay, see what that looks like. See, it's getting there. Put a little more on there. Put a little dab of fine oil. Okay, now we're done. We'll see what that looks like. Wipe this all off. And there, once again, look at that, perfectly seated in for this one. Okay, now that we have the head all clean, took it all apart, washed it in soap and water, oiled it back up so it doesn't get rusty. We lapped the valves to the seats, so every one of these is the right one. Notice I still have it labeled. So what we're going to do is assemble the spring, put the retainer back on here, and then we're going to put it through the head. It's going to come through, and then we're going to put this little O-ring on, and then on the top goes two keepers, one like that, the other one, and then it sits in here just like that. So we look at the back side of the head. This valve will go in. This is number one, so it will go in the number one side. And remember, the small one is the exhaust. The large one is the intake. Okay? So, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go and wash these valves. Take these apart, wash the springs, wash the valves in solvent so that they're super clean, and then we're going to oil them up a little bit, and we're going to put them in. We'll install them and put the rubbers on there, the keepers, the retaining springs, everything. So let me wash that. Okay, so we're going to start. I'm going to put these rubber seals on. These rubber seals go right through the valve here, but it sits over here on the head itself. So it's got a little notch here. So what I'm going to do is just tighten it up a little bit with the pliers. Just a little bit. And it goes right here. And I'll just tap that on. A little block of wood. So it fits perfect, really tight. Okay, then we'll put some oil in the valve. There it comes, all the way through. Next thing we need to do is put the spring and the retainers on there. And now I'm going to get my valve compression tool. Squeeze it on there. Next thing is we want this little tiny O-ring to go on there. Put a little oil on that. Goes right over the valve. And right on that second little slot. There's a groove for it. It's this groove right in here that this little rubber O-ring goes out. And then remember our two little keepers, one for each side. Put one on, put the other, and slowly release. There you go. It's all in there. Okay, so let's try it again. Take these seals, and notice how it's got a little gap there. So I'm just going to squeeze it a little bit more. So it comes back. It's really tight. And it will go on right here. Make sure it's all the way seated on the bottom. Get our valve, put some oil on it with this antique oil master oiler. That's as old as they come. My dad gave that to me a long time ago. And here comes the valve. I think he gave that to me about 50 years ago, so I can imagine how old it is. Okay. I'll put the valve spring on. Retainers. Get our little tool. Squeeze it tight. There it comes. Put a little oil on that. Oh, my hands are oily. Put the rubber one on there. Make sure it sits perfect. Take the two keepers. One half and the other half. Hold them in place, slowly release the spring. it is. 2 down. Okay, so now I'm going to go get, see, here's number 7 and 8. Intake, exhaust. So we'll clean these up and we'll put these in. So now we have just 2 more to do on this head. There, see, it tightens it right up. Push it on there. Make sure it's seated perfect. There, put the valve in there. There's the O-ring. Okay, now we have 2 keepers. See, they're tapered too. The top part is thicker, the bottom part is thinner. Just fit right on there. Release the pressure. There we go. Okay, let's just do one more. The last one on this side. So we'll tighten these up a little bit. Comes back. Put that on there. Oil the valve. There we go. Now we have spring, retainer, and the keeper. We'll go on. Got a little O-ring. There were 2 keepers. Two halves. Release the pressure. And there we go. Okay, that finishes up. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 cylinders, 2 valves on each side. All the keepers are in there. Turn around from the back side. So intake, exhaust, exhaust, intake. It's all cleaned, ready to go. So all we have to do is bolt these onto the block after we put the pistons and rings in, and away we go.